who is currently in P4, the driver who started from the pit lane, heading to 200 miles an hour with a DRS open power, with Russell hugging the inside line, and Max Verstappen getting by from the pit lane to the podium. It's inspired stuff at Interlagos once again for Max Verstappen.
I'm Max Verstappen. I race for Aston Martin Rebel Racing. I'm the best driver because I believe that I'm the best.
This is the story of a drive that defied physics, statistics, and engineering. A performance so mathematically improbable that it carries a less than 0.01% chance of ever happening. 1 in 10,000 races, Max Verstappen didn't just overcome a bad qualifying session, he achieved something that Formula One's entire history says is impossible. This isn't just another comeback story, this is how disaster turned into dominance. And when you understand the engineering nightmare Red Bull faced, the impossible tyre physics, and the overnight gamble that broke every rule in the book, you'll realise why this drive will haunt Formula One forever. Saturday, November 8th, 2025. Interlagos, São Paulo. Max Verstappen walked into qualifying expecting a tough battle. What he got was a catastrophe. For the first time in his entire Formula One career, Verstappen was eliminated in qualifying 1 on pure pace. He was simply 0.7 seconds too slow.
Can Max Verstappen find a lap time, or are we in for an almighty shock? Verstappen to the line, and Verstappen is out of the first part of qualifying. A day of shocks continues.
The RB21 was all over the place. The car that had dominated earlier in the season had turned into an undrivable monster at Interlagos. And the reason was simple. The circuit exposed every single weakness the Red Bull possessed. The RB21 was designed around extreme low ride heights that maximized ground effect downforce. When the car sat 20 to 25 millimeters off the ground, it generated massive suction. But Interlagos, built on geologically unstable ground 760 meters above sea level, is one of the bumpiest tracks on the calendar. The bumps and elevation changes demanded a ride height of 30 to 40 millimeters, just to prevent the car from bottoming out. This was the contradiction Red Bull couldn't solve. Raise the car to survive the bumps and you kill the ground effect. Lower it to find speed and you get disqualified for plank wear. Technical director Pierre Vache admitted that changes of just half a millimeter in ride height could swing performance by several tenths of a second. Verstappen's qualifying 1 elimination triggered a 5-place grid penalty, dropping him to a pit lane start. The championship was already slipping away, a 49-point deficit to Lando Norris. With only 3 races remaining, Verstappen needed to outscore Norris by 16.3 points per race, nearly triple the largest successful modern-era championship comeback. Even Red Bull's team principal Laurent Mekies admitted the title was unrealistic. But what Red Bull did that night would break every rule in the book. The decision was made. Red Bull would breach Parc Fermé regulations and rebuild the car from scratch. They ripped out the entire power unit, internal combustion engine, turbocharger, both MGU units, energy store and control electronics. All 6 components. They reverted to the Austin specification floor, abandoning the Mexico update. They overhauled the entire suspension geometry, and they did it all with 0 track testing to validate the changes. Formula One teams spend millions and thousands of hours to validate the smallest adjustments. Red Bull was making wholesale changes in a single night, gambling that their engineering calculations were perfect. Their aging wind tunnel had been giving them unreliable data all season. Christian Horner admitted their tools are driving us in a direction that isn't replicating what we're seeing on track. This overnight setup was educated guesswork, but somehow impossibly they found it. They discovered the exact combination where the RB21's contradictory demands harmonized. The precise balance between high enough to prevent bottoming and low enough to maintain floor downforce. Sunday morning, Max Verstappen isn't on the grid. He's sitting alone in the pit lane. The overnight engineering miracle had given him a car capable of winning. But what happened next would create a deficit so catastrophic that even the perfect setup couldn't overcome it. Or so everyone thought. The pit lane start created an invisible handicap beyond time. A thermal physics nightmare. When Verstappen's C2 hard compound tyres came off the 70 to 80 degrees Celsius warming blankets, they immediately faced 21 degrees Celsius ambient air. Every other driver had the formation lap. Weaving, sliding, flexing the tyre carcass to generate heat, Verstappen had 0 laps to build this thermal energy. Hard compound tyres require 5 or more laps to reach optimal temperature. Starting from the pit lane, Verstappen's tyres were functionally 15 to 20 degrees Celsius below the operating window when the race went green. Engineers call it skating. The tyre contact patch stays rigid instead of conforming to track irregularities. Bleeding grip at every input. Thermal imaging shows surface temperatures hovering around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius for the first 3 laps. Verstappen described it as having no grip whatsoever. But just as his tyres finally started working, disaster struck on lap 6. A puncture. Verstappen limped back to the pits, the destroyed tyre shredding apart. He dropped to dead last. The gap to the race leader, 45 seconds. 8 laps into a 71-lap race, Max Verstappen was further behind than any driver in the points had ever been. In Formula One history, only 8 drivers have ever reached the podium from a pit lane start, a 0.7% success rate across 1,121 races. And not a single one had suffered an early race puncture. The statistical combination had 0 historical precedent. But then something strange occurred. The puncture, paradoxically, saved him. A virtual safety car was deployed just as Verstappen pitted. Under VSC, the pit stop cost approximately 10 to 12 seconds instead of the normal 20 to 22 seconds. More importantly, the forced tyre change moved him off the C2 hard compound, a tyre Pirelli confirmed was not really an option for the race, and onto the C3 medium compound that proved optimal for race pace. But the mathematics of 4 pit stops should have buried any hope of a podium. Each pit stop costs approximately 20 to 22 seconds. Verstappen made 4 stops. Pit lane start, 0 laps completed. Lap 6 puncture under VSC, 10 to 12 seconds lost. Lap 35 planned stop, 20 to 22 seconds lost. Lap 54 aggressive final stop, 20 to 22 seconds lost. Total time loss approximately 70 to 76 seconds. Race winner Lando Norris completed 2 stops, losing roughly 40 to 44 seconds total. Verstappen conceded over 30 seconds in pit lane time alone compared to the race winner, yet he finished only 10.7 seconds behind Norris. Verstappen lost 30 plus seconds more than the winner just sitting in pit lane and still finished on the podium. Drivers with 2 extra pit stops typically finish outside the points, not 3rd place. But between laps 9 and 28, something extraordinary was happening. What Verstappen did next defied every law of tyre degradation. With matching tyre compounds to George Russell, Verstappen was running consistently 0.5 seconds per lap faster, not occasionally. Relentlessly, lap after lap, he was demolishing the time gap with surgical precision. This wasn't supposed to be possible. Verstappen was passing through traffic, his tyres overheating constantly, conditions that accelerate degradation by 30 to 40%. Yet Verstappen was half a second faster every single lap. When Russell pitted and Verstappen inherited clear air on lap 20, the gap to 3rd place was just 9.3 seconds. From a pit lane start after a puncture. The most revealing data, Verstappen's fastest average 10-lap pace was 1 minute 12.971 seconds. Oscar Piastri, who started P4 with a clean, optimal 2-stop strategy, posted 1 minute 13.007 seconds. Verstappen, with 4 stops and starting from the pit lane, had objectively faster race pace than a driver who qualified normally. Piastri finished P6, Verstappen finished 3rd. The car that couldn't get out of qualifying 1 was now the fastest on track. Red Bull's overnight gamble had unleashed a monster. By lap 50, Verstappen had carved through the entire field. He'd passed 17 cars. He was running in 2nd place, closing on the leader. The impossible was becoming merely improbable, but the most shocking decision came when he was leading the race. Lap 54 of 71. Max Verstappen is leading the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's 6.5 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli. After starting from the pit lane, after suffering a puncture, he's on the verge of the most miraculous victory in Formula One history. And then his engineer's voice crackles. Box, box, box. Verstappen pits from the lead with 17 laps remaining. The decision seemed insane, but Red Bull wasn't operating on emotion. They were operating on data. Verstappen's medium tyres were 19 laps old and degrading into the 1:14 seconds. Norris, running 25 laps fresher rubber, was consistently in the low 1:13 seconds. The telemetry showed Norris would catch Verstappen in 13 laps. That left only 3 to 4 laps for defence on critically degraded tyres, mathematically impossible to hold him off. Red Bull made the ruthless call: pit for soft tyres, guarantee P3 and gamble on charging back. No emotion, no glory hunting, just cold optimization. Verstappen emerged in third and immediately attacked. On lap 63, he pulled off the move of the race. An audacious outside pass on Russell through the Senna S's. Russell locked his wheels. Verstappen just overtook him on the outside, then pulled a gap to prevent DRS recapture. Dutch analyst Renger van der Zande called it the action of the race. Pure instinct. Pure aggression. Verstappen closed on Antonelli. The gap shrank. He crossed the line in third place, just 0.362 seconds behind P2. But third place was more than enough.
Who is currently in P4, the driver who started from the pit lane with the DRS open, heading to 200 miles an hour with Russell hugging the inside line, and Max Verstappen getting by from the pit lane to the podium. It's inspired Verstappen Interlagos once again for Max Verstappen.
But why do experts call this drive superior to his impossible 2024 win? In 2024, Max Verstappen won the Brazilian Grand Prix from P17. Torrential rain, chaos, a red flag that promoted him to P2 through strategic timing. He set 17 fastest laps and won by 19.5 seconds.
In the Brazilian rain, the Dutchman has delivered a defining drive. He climbs the hill back to Grand Prix victory, up through the gears to a huge moment in the Drivers' World Championship. The world champion strikes back. Max Verstappen wins the São Paulo Grand Prix in 2024. 17th on the grid to the win. A return to victory when it mattered most.
It was magnificent. But 2025 was better. 2024 had the great equalizer. Rain creates chaos, masks car performance differences. The red flag gave Verstappen a free jump in track position. 2025 had none of that. No rain, no red flags, no chaos. Just pure dry weather racing where car performance determines everything. Verstappen started from the pit lane, 20 plus seconds behind before the race began. He suffered a puncture. He made 4 pit stops, and he still posted the fastest race pace of anyone on track. Laurent Mekies said plainly, "This is the superior performance." Lando Norris admitted, without the qualifying situation, Verstappen would have been there for the victory. The 2025 drive had no luck, no chaos, no gifts, just engineering precision and driving perfection overcoming compounded disadvantages. Statistical modelling shows that without the puncture, a 2-stop strategy would have been competitive for the win. The performance was there. It was just buried under circumstances with a less than 0.01% probability of producing a podium finish. And here's why there will truly never be another drive like this. In 1,121 Formula One races, only 8 drivers have reached the podium from a pit lane start, a 0.7% success rate. Max Verstappen became the first and only driver in history to do it while suffering an early race puncture. The combination had 0 historical precedent because it was statistically impossible. But it wasn't just the statistics, it was the psychology. Verstappen entered Brazil with a 49-point championship deficit and 3 races remaining. He needed to outscore Norris by 16.3 points per race, nearly triple the largest successful modern-era comeback rate. The title was gone, and that liberation changed everything. Without championship pressure, Verstappen drove with pure instinct. The outside pass on Russell? A championship contender never risks that move. But Verstappen had nothing to lose. The fans recognized it. Driver of the Day, 56.7% of the votes, more than the race winner and P2 finisher combined. Fans weren't voting for the result. They were voting for witnessing something that redefined what's possible. And this is the terrifying truth that will haunt Formula One forever. Red Bull built a car with winning pace, but only when perfectly configured. The RB21 operates in a setup window measured in half millimeters. Brazil proved both sides. Saturday's disaster showed how fragile it is. Sunday's podium showed how devastating it can be. But finding that perfect window without testing after 2 failed attempts in a single night, that's not sustainable across 24 races. Max Verstappen's 2025 Brazil drive will never be replicated because the circumstances can't be reproduced. The overnight engineering miracle, the pit lane start, the puncture under VSC, the 4-stop strategy producing the fastest race pace, the psychological liberation. It was lightning in a bottle, a perfect storm that produced a statistical anomaly, the impossible becoming merely improbable through the collision of engineering precision and driver brilliance. From a pit lane start with a puncture and 4 stops to the podium with the fastest race pace, Max Verstappen proved that greatness isn't just about winning. It's about defying the mathematics, the physics, and the history books to achieve something the sport says can't be done. And in doing so, he made sure no one will ever be able to follow the same path again. Not only did Max Verstappen rewrite what's possible in Brazil, but there are other legendary drives with stories just as extraordinary. From champions who won through impossible circumstances to racers who defied the odds themselves, Formula One is filled with untold legends. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other videos, like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss F1's greatest stories. See you in the next one.